everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Making a Difference in Mental Health. I'm Danielle. Wendy is on location. Hey, Wendy.
Hey girl, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm actually really excited because we have our friends and our colleagues here, Nikki and Marty. They are repeat guests from previous seasons. So we are so happy to have them back to talk about a very interesting topic for our June's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So welcome, guys.
Hi Danielle, how are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm so glad to see you all. And I am excited to hear what you all have to say. So I'm going to actually turn this over to Wendy. Wendy, talk to us.
All right, well, I'm on location. I'm always looking for content for our show, but I'm happy to join today to talk about this topic for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month in June. So we're going to be talking a little bit of a teaser about toxic masculinity. So Nikki and Marty are experts on this topic. They've researched it. They're getting ready to, I hear through the grapevine, a training. Can you tell
Hmm.
us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, so we are doing a brand new training. We've never done this before about toxic masculinity across the lifespan and its impact on men's mental health. Our training is going to be this month, so we're really, really excited for it.
When will it happen?
So it's going to be on June 18th, which is coming up real soon.
So yeah, I hear that, getting geared up to train all of us on this topic,
Oh
which is
yeah.
great. And I think we've talked about this topic a little bit in the past, but this is going to be a more in-depth conversation. And it's so timely because I know last year it was a big conversation about the Netflix movie Adolescence.
Hmm.
And I think that movie got a lot of awards, I believe. And it just brought up this conversation again about what's going on with our boys and our men. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say in the training and learning some more things clinically. Go ahead, Danielle.
Okay. So I know that you all, again, I said you all were a repeat guest, but I forgot to ask you to introduce yourself to our new viewers. So really quickly, before we get into like the thick of the conversation, Nikki, let everyone know, your title, where you're located within advanced behavioral health, and then Marty, you're next.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Nikki. I am I'm part of the community schools team. So I'm a school-based mental health therapist at ABH.
And I'm Marty. I'm an LCSWC. Been with ABH for about 9 years now, as of the month of June. And I'm an off-site clinician, predominantly serving Howard County and parts of PG County.
All
Congrats,
right.
Marty. You've been here a minute.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
OG.
Marty.
Marty's an OG.
Yes. Yes. So we're in part of the OG club, like 9 years
Oh
and
yeah.
up, we're the OGs.
That's right. So, you guys, tell me a little bit about what piqued your interest in doing this topic. I talked a little bit about, just the hype around adolescence last year, but just individually, can you just share with our audience what is so interesting to you all about this topic?
So I'd love to jump in here, Wendy. Thanks for the question. The first thing that interested me is just like being a male therapist and experiencing this with our young men and sometimes older men that we serve. You see different patterns of, like anger equals aggression, or like they grow up thinking they have to act a certain maladaptive way that, constantly gets them in trouble. And when they're called out by it by, teachers, parents, other people, they don't really understand why if they have different peers in the community or different content they're watching online. Kids these days are exposed to so much more internet media than ever. And, just seeing this across my clients' lifespans, my own lifespan, being 33, you see the internet really blow up since I was a child, and I basically grown up with it. So I've seen it in real time. I've seen it as a professional. And I just think there's a lot of things that just are not covered in regular mental health training that our young men are constantly exposed to. And if they're exposed to it, then everyone's exposed to it in some way because everyone deals with the ripple effect of the behavior.
Absolutely.
for that. So, Nikki, as a female therapist, what piqued your interest? What are you trying
Yeah.
to get out of this experience with male toxicity?
Yeah. So, like Marty mentioned, we have a lot of our adolescent young adults that are, we're seeing a lot of statistics come out about decline in academics, decline in their mental health. And something that piqued really my interest was when I started working part of the community schools team, I was placed in an elementary school. And I was very surprised that a lot of the clientele that I see at the school are young boys between the ages of 5 and 8. And that's something that really, really sparked my attention. And I really started to think about why such a small category of boys are the majority of my caseload. And I was seeing the same concerns after another, which was our young boys having a much harder time with emotion regulation and not having the proper support that they need, and the adults around them also not knowing how to approach the situation. So, when the opportunity came up for us last year, we did a let's chat. It's just an agency-wide let's chat on men's mental health. There were a lot of people that joined that conversation, and we realized that this conversation with adolescents being released was really important. So when the opportunity came for me to do this training, I jumped right on it because I wanted to do more research. I was so interested to see what is going on with our young boys and like really young boys. So I did, I've done the research and I'm more than happy to talk about it because I found some very surprising things that I did not think I would find.
Okay, well, don't give it away, Nikki. You're doing that training, so we need to be a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you guys. I think what I heard is, a lot of internet activity going on, maladaptive behavior, and it's starting younger, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Danielle, what you think?
Well, I can really identify with Nikki. We both work within the community schools program for Prince George's County, and I too experienced the same thing in the previous school year and even in this school year. There is an increase in, challenges with emotion regulation, with some social interaction skills, like interpersonal social skills. And I know this particular year, I was really interested in having a push for social groups for young boys between the ages of, well, for me, the group that I'm working with right now is like between the ages of 8 to 12. But yeah, it's a challenge. I kind of, it's kind of a joke that I put across at the school where I say it's like, yeah, it's just like little baby testosterone, just like running all over the place. And it's really hard sometimes to like hone it in. One of my I'll say one of the classrooms that I work with, I think there are 22 boys and only 6 girls. So you can
Wow.
imagine the dysregulation that happens in that in that classroom. And I take my hat off to the teachers all the time when it comes to just general classroom self-regulation, excuse me, general classroom regulation and redirection. Now, I know that we do not want to give away any information from the training that's going to come up. Is there just one maybe statistic, maybe Nikki or Marty, that you can share? Not giving us a whole gamut, but just a little bit of what you can share when it comes to maybe stats or research that you found when it comes to this particular topic, or maybe even the cohort of kids that we're talking about.
I think one of the first things that I think of is just like statistics around it's not really statistics, but like information around the rhetoric that's being used.
Mm.
Like, like young men are and young boys are definitely aware of how they're being perceived. Like they're aware that they may be called like misogynistic just because of like certain stigma put on them, just because that's like how a lot of people view it. And they may say like, well, I treat women fairly. Everything's fine. And then they might do behaviors that completely suggest the opposite. So there's this awareness and backlash towards like the rhetoric, which kind of begs this big question, which we're definitely going to tackle in the training, is like how do we talk to our youth in general about, uplifting boys, girls, everyone in between, everyone who identifies one way, because if we help one group, we should be helping all of them.
Mm. Mm.
Our men, our boys, and our men need so much more empathy than we give them. And that's something that we have to all learn how to give our boys and men the empathy that they deserve. I think that's something that I've realized is really missing. I've realized that, this is something that we all of us, not just men, women, children, everyone has to work really hard to give men and young boys the empathy that they truly deserve.
Looking forward to this training. As I said, as clinicians, what are the skills that we can take away from this training and start applying immediately with our young boys and adolescents, and actually young men, because Marty does see a lot of young men too. And this is across the gamut, as you said in the intro. So super excited. Any like a sneak resource or a tip that you can leave us with that parents can utilize or at least start reading about to familiarize themselves with? This is a problem, and that we all together collectively can fix this.
I would just encourage parents and clinicians alike to really just be in tune with the content your kids are engaging with, whether that be social media, YouTube, video games, even in like sports locker rooms, for instance. There's a lot that, goes under the radar. Some of these, like, especially teenagers and young adult men live in like this echo chamber. And what that does is that really amplifies some of the really darker or violent thoughts that they have and makes them feel valid, which makes them more likely to act on them. And we've seen that multiple times over the last decade that result in these horrific tragedies. And if we just paid a little more attention to them and understand why they turn to these resources in the first place, then perhaps we can provide some intervention and some understanding and empathy as well, like Nikki said.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would highly encourage for parents is to surround themselves and their children with positive male role models.
Mhm.
And that could be anybody like anybody that you can count on to, you know, act in a positive way and have positive views and very like egalitarian views, I would say, whether that is not everybody has a father figure, but some people have brothers, some people might have uncles, and some people might have even coaches, male teachers.
Mhm.
All of these people can play a big role in being positive role models. So I think parents just really have to focus on find that positive male role model for your child, and keep them around. Keep them around and keep them close because that's one of the biggest things that will really make or break, people's view of masculinity.
Yeah, I love it. Role models, keep them around and keep them close. But go ahead, Danielle.
Mhm.
I know you're itching to say something.
Yes, no, I think that's a really good, good advice for parents. I can recall on previous seasons, whenever it comes to Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and when we talk to any of the guys, I remember I believe it was last season, we had one of our guys, Mike, who works here at ABH, and he brought on all of his coach friends. Mike, I believe, coaches football, and they told the stories of the kids that they have impacted over the years. And like you said, Nikki, some of them may not have a biological father or paternal male figure in the home, but there are those who come into that space and kind of, whether it is by default or they take ownership and they take pride of being that example for young men. And I think that it's really good to have those staples in place. And, sometimes we even hear stories about coaching from, pee-wee football or when they were really young. And now coaches are standing there with pride as they see these same young men who might have been, pushed off by society, walking across the stage with a diploma or turning whatever that was, that aggression, or, sometimes that misplaced anger, or just being misunderstood, into something good, a new initiative for the community or for their fellow peers. And so that just reminded me of just some of our episodes in the past where this is a topic that, I feel like we focus so much on girls and, or, things that might pop up a little bit more in pop culture. But with guys, it is easier to either just, stay quiet, be cool, or angry. Either way, there's a whole spectrum, a full spectrum of emotions. There's a full spectrum of thoughts and feelings and things that need to get out. And I think that this topic right here is something good for everyone, people who are watching, and even some of our therapist colleagues, which brings me to the next question. What would you want those who are attending the training that you all are going to do, whether they're therapists or counselors, or those who just might be interested in the topic from a clinical perspective, like what would you want them to learn or take away from the training?
Just a little bit, remember.
Just
Can't
a
go
little
away.
Yes.
Can't go away.
Insight, really, just like having the information to be able to make like informed choices, whether it be parenting, being a therapist too, or just interacting with our young men in everyday situations, or like in the home, in the school, or in a clinical setting. Just like any insight we can share that helps shed some light on what our boys are more than likely silently suffering through would be great.
Yeah. And something I want therapists to take away, especially when it comes to the younger boys, is tap into your own implicit bias. We all
Mm,
have them. And we all have them about when it comes to men and what we perceive about their mental health and how they're supposed to express their feelings. So really, really, we're going to go back to the conversation of tap into your own implicit bias. We all have them. We all have to admit that we have them before anything can move forward with bringing positive masculinity.
that's really good. I like that. Don't give us any more because we want to save it. But
Right.
that was really good. That was really good.
Yeah, Nikki and Marty, thanks for popping on the podcast today to give us a little bit of info about the upcoming training on toxic masculinity. We appreciate your work, your research, your insight, and your passion about this topic. And as I said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, it's a very important subject that gets a lot of negative attention. And we want to turn it around to what Nikki said to make it positive masculinity. So, guys, we're looking forward to it. And thank you so much. And Danielle, you can kick it off.
Yes, again, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye.
See ya.